Okay, first you will excuse my French accent. I have been living here for 52 years. I could not lose my accent. Okay, so first of all, regarding the movie, Casablanca has nothing to do with what you just saw in the movie. It is Hollywood. This is Casablanca.
Back then.
Okay?
No, this is 50 years ago.
This is
Yeah.
50 years ago, even more than 52. At the time, we were living in Casablanca. I was born in Casablanca, which was at the time a French protectorate. And unfortunately, even though I was born in Morocco, we never had in school history of Morocco. We learned the history of the French, and believe it or not, me and all of us Moroccan Jews, my first lesson of history in class was this. Our ancestors, the Gauls, were blonde and had blue eyes. That's what we learned in school, while my ancestors were not Gauls, you know, but that's what it is. But I'm going to talk very briefly about the history of Morocco. The Jews came from the diaspora already in Morocco, and archaeologists have found presence of the Jewish people there. And they were living in a little town near the capital of Morocco called Salé. And they were doing business, they were doing trade with gold and salt. Then after that, the Romans were chased, and it was the, comment ils appellent,
The Byzantine Christians.
no, not yet,
yeah.
not the Vandals. And during the Vandals, the Jews occupied, they were not persecuted. Then came the Byzantine, the Christian Byzantine, and then this is when they started the persecution of the Jews, and they were badly mistreated. And after that, in the 7th century, the Arabs conquered Morocco. And when they conquered Morocco, for a few centuries, the Jews were okay. But there were a dynasty called the Almohad. And during this dynasty, the Jews suffered a lot. They were persecuted and everything. Okay. So after that, you know, depending on the dynasty that was in Morocco at that time, depending on their will, their good will or bad will, the Jews were either persecuted or were okay, and sometimes the Jews were okay for a few centuries, as a matter of fact. And then what happened is, after the Arabs, when they, at one point on the 14th century, if I remember, what happened is the Jews were again persecuted, and they were forced, during the Almohad, I think, they were forced to wear blue clothing and yellow shawls. Okay, and they were persecuted and everything. Okay, in the 1400, about 1435, Jews were accused of violating a mosque. So of course, they persecuted the Jews again, killed many Jews and everything, and then they put them in near salt mines. And in Arabic, to say salt, we say mela, okay? And what happened, they forced those Jews to live there, and after that, every city in Morocco had a mela. It's a ghetto where the Jews were forced to live. And the best thing that happened in Morocco is when the French, who wanted to expand their civilization and the French language, decided to open schools French schools. And of course they were subsidized by the French government and French wealthy Jews, and they opened those schools. And it was, the first one was opened I think in 1860. It was in a little town, and at the end of the 19th century they opened them in Casablanca, and where my parents already went to French schools. And of course, we had French education. Everything was French. Now I was talking about the Mela. Not everybody lived in the Mela. Some people were lucky enough to live in the European part of Casablanca. That's about it. Okay. That is where. Now, in Morocco, we had two entities. The first one was the rabbinical, comment on appelle, tribunal, where they had, in each town, they had 3 judges, which were chosen by the French government. And they were rabbis at that time. Before they didn't have a school, they had only yeshivot. So there were rabbis who were in charge of each town, okay? And among them, there was a great uncle of mine who was Rabbi Raphael Ankawa. This was how rabbis at that time were dressed. He was, I would say, in the end of the 19th century.
Wow. I know that our students have some questions they wanted to ask. Can they ask them now?
And one thing also I just want to mention is that, you know, in the 1400s, many Jews, as they were persecuted, they moved to Spain. And right after that, there was Inquisition in Spain.
Right.
So the Jews went back to Morocco, and my roots are from Spain.
Okay.
And as a matter of fact, there was a rabbi, Abraham Saba, who is my ancestor. And if you go to the Jewish encyclopedia, you will see that they talk about this, one of my ancestors, Abraham Saba.
So
I printed it.
Anybody here Sephardic Jews of Spanish descent?
Okay, and that's what I am, a Sephardic Jew. Are you a Sephardic Jew?
Yeah.
From where?
Turkey.
I see, yeah, I see. Francine is my daughter, and I'm going to ask her to read briefly. Is it necessary?
You don't know. Go
Okay.
tell
But
more
can
about
you
your.
leave
You
it?
leave
Can you
it.
leave us
About
first? Because what we do
Abraham
is
Saba.
our
Okay.
guests leave
All
us
right.
documents and
Now,
we keep them.
about the
Yeah, we
war,
can give you copies.
Yeah.
as my husband is very good in history and war, you know, I was too young during the war. I was only 1 year old. My husband also was young, but he's more knowledgeable about the war, so he's the one who is going to talk about the war.
Okay, good. So I think we have some questions about your early childhood. And you can add your own questions or change them if you see fit.
Alright, so where did you live growing up? Like, did you live in
I grew up in Casablanca, Morocco,
Did you-
French Morocco.
Right. But did you grow up in the Mela or in the...
No, in the French city,
Okay.
in the French quarter. I was lucky enough to because, tell you the truth, the ghetto were not nice. Huh?
Right.
You know, so luckily we lived, my grandparents already had an apartment in the French section, and this is where I grew up.
So did you lived in an apartment?
In an apartment. So most of the people, they have also what we call villas, which are very nice and everything, but we lived in an apartment.
Did you celebrate Shabbat every Friday?
Oh, we were observant. We did observe our religion very well. We were Orthodox, but not fanatic. We were Orthodox, so we observed all the holidays, the Shabbat, everything. That was a part of our life, and I would say 90% of the population of the Moroccan Jews were observant, at least, if it is not 95%. Yeah.
And when did you move to America?
I moved to America. Okay, Morocco became independent in 1956. The French took North Africa. There was Algeria, Tunisia, Morocco. Morocco was a protectorate. And there was an agreement with the king of Morocco, the Sultan, it's called, that the Jews could not get the French citizenship. Okay, after the independence they could, but during the protectorate we could not become French citizens. Okay, so, but we had French education. Now, if you want, I can talk to you about some of my own experience
Yeah, I
as
know
a
we wanted
Jew.
to ask Wendy maybe some more questions about her early childhood and what it was like being a child and growing up and going to school and what your friends were like.
So did you go to school with only Jews, or was
Okay, when I was in elementary school, as I said, we had the school of Alliance Israélite. Okay, but there was only one school in Casablanca where the students were Jews and the teachers were Christians, most of them. There were some Jews also, but most of the teachers were Christian, French. They were very strict, those teachers. And I'm going to give you an example of what happened while I was in class, in that elementary
And your
school.
classes were in French, you only spoke French.
Only French.
But did you also speak,
Hebrew?
did you speak Hebrew or
No,
Arabic? Or
no.
any other?
Many Jews spoke Arabic. I speak a little bit because we had maids, and
Right.
maids were Arabs, so that's how we learned Arabic. But many Jews, also from the Mela especially, they spoke Arabic fluently. It was like their language also. But no, I did not speak much Arabic. What happened to me, I was in elementary school, and the last class before you go to high school, like 2 years before I went to high school, if you were a good student, you can get an exam. If you pass, you could go to high school. So in my class, only 2 students were selected, a friend and I. A friend of mine and I, we went to that, we got this exam. I passed the exam. My friend did not pass it. Okay. So the next day we went to school, and the teacher, a French woman, said, "Congratulations, Yolande," that's my name. The other girl, I remember the name, I will never forget, the name was Odette. And the teacher said to Odette, "You're so stupid. You are really stupid. How could you not pass this exam? Dirty Jew, dirty Jew." She took a stick and started beating her. And the girl was on the floor and screaming. And I was shaking and I was screaming. And parents couldn't do anything. Parents couldn't do anything. Another thing also that happened in the elementary school, that was not in École de l'Alliance. L'École de l'Alliance, all the teachers were Jews, but somehow I don't know why I was in that school. And my brothers also were in that school. My brothers are older than I am. So there was a school for boys and the school for the girls. Okay. And this school was situated, excuse me, near the Medina. Medina is the Arab quarter. Okay. The Arabs were finishing school at 4:30 in the afternoon, the Jews 5 o'clock. And as I said, the principal of the school, the teachers were not Jews, most of them. And the principal was not Jew, he was from French Brittany, Monsieur Carriel. So what happened? The Arabs were leaving school before us. They gathered all kinds of stones in their, and put them in their pockets. And they were ready to attack the Jews who were coming out of the school, among them my brothers. And here they are. And what did the French do? Monsieur Carriel, he put the Jews, push them out, close the door, in order not to protect them. And the Jews, every night when they were going home, they had to run home because the Arabs would throw stones at them. And my brother made a joke out of it. He said, I was taking the cover of
Garbage can.
a pail, of a
Trash can. The
trash can,
lid of the trash
the
can.
cover of a trash can, and was protecting himself like that and running backwards home.
Shield, yeah.
That was how it was in that section. Now, my husband was French, did not suffer at all I didn't have any of those kind of experience. I cannot even talk about those kind of experience. But that was the worst thing that happened to us as children.
Did you have non-Jewish friends growing up?
Did I? No, I did not have non-Jewish friends. No, all my friends were Jews. Yeah.
Did you end up going to the high school, even though your friends?
In the high school, luckily, I was in the l'Alliance israélite universelle. It was called Cours complémentaire de l'Alliance. And of course, it was in the European section. And I was so happy in that school. The teachers were Jews, the friends were Jews, and I was living in a Jewish community. I didn't feel any anti-Semitism, of course. I felt very happy in that school. Yeah.
Do you guys have more questions about our high school? Did you play sports, or did you play musical
Not
instruments?
in
What
high
hobbies
school.
did you have?
Yes, a little bit in elementary school, a little bit, not much. We didn't. And in high school, we had basketball, a little bit of basketball. Violin? Yeah. Oh no, violin was not in the school, like here, you know. I went to a conservatory of music, where I had solfeggio, and violin. That's about it.
Want to ask some questions about the later years?
When did you leave Morocco?
I left, I'm sorry you asked me this question before. Okay. When Morocco became independent, that means the French had to leave, and so when Morocco became independent, it was in 1956, and I was a teacher,
Right.
elementary school teacher. Fortunately, I met my husband, who is an Ashkenazi. There were very few Ashkenazi guys in Morocco, but I met my husband. I got married, and we came to America on our free will. We were not forced to leave, the Jews were not forced to leave Morocco like the other Arab countries. We left on our free will. But I understand that after I left, there were also, the Jews were not, the Jews started to leave Morocco, but I forgot to say, during the independence of Israel, I forgot to mention this,
1940.
1948,
Okay.
I was 10 years old. In 1948, I was 10 years old. And then I was going to that school where the teachers were not. Okay. So as I said, all the pupils, students were Jews. So at that time, there was, for example, a girl named Rachel Cohen. Okay, she was absent because we did comment dit l'appel en anglais.
Attendance.
Roll call.
Attendance.
Roll call.
Attendance. Every morning they did. Okay, Rachel Cohen, not here. Next day, Rachel, and most of the students were living in the Mela. Huh?
Mhm.
Okay,
In the ghetto.
Rachel Cohen next day, not here. For 10 days, Rachel Cohen. Anybody, the teacher said, anybody would know where is Rachel Cohen? No. After the 10th day, or 15 days sometimes, they would say, she went to Israel. Because they were living clandestinely. You know, they were afraid to say they were going to leave. And the condition was very difficult for them to leave Morocco, very difficult. It was mostly, after the independence, unfortunately, mostly the very poor people of Morocco who went to Israel.
To Israel.
Yeah.
We need to ask you how you got to Casablanca. You were
Well-
living in Paris?
Well, I was born in Paris. My parents came from Poland and went to,
Anybody here have families from Poland? Huh?
Good.
Yeah?
my parents came from Poland and went to France. My father deserted from the Polish army just after the First World War. And he went to Paris, and during the there were some people from my family already went to Morocco before that. So when they had the recession, depression, which was worldwide, so things were very bad in Paris. So we went to Morocco. I was only 1 year old, so I grew up in. Even though I was born in Paris, I grew up in Morocco, and I can consider myself as a French Moroccan or whatever. but that's why I ended up in Morocco, and I went to French school. By the way, whatever Yolande said that she was beaten, the girl was beaten, and so the part of the Jewish, which was terrible, but we were all, everybody was beaten at that time in schools. We used to get
No,
beaten.
no, not the same way. Not the same way.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying
no.
for the kids to
That
know.
schools in general are more
No,
punitive.
no, that was not the case. No, no.
Physical punishment was the rule.
Okay, I agree.
At that
I
time.
agree. If you didn't do well in your dictation on everything, yes, but that was different because
How do
it
you
has
guys like
marked
that,
me
huh?
for the rest.
You like to get hit?
I was
Didn't you
used to
well?
that of hitting the children because I was
Right.
used to that.
Right.
But that has nothing to do. Nothing to do. You have no idea. It is vivid in my memory. I cried. I became pale.
I
went.
didn't, that's not what I
okay.
understand what, no, I
was-
just wanted to put it in the context.
Context, yeah.
That physical punishment was,
All right,
was
that's
the
norm.
rule.
No,
Right, but
she
for us
took
it's
it to-
shocking because we're in a different time, and I think
That's
these
why,
students
that's why I
agree
know
it's a
that,
very shocking
that
Nothing
to
to
do
some,
that.
the teacher would have
it
gone
is-
to jail
It is
today.
in
if,
my heart. It's still in me.
Right.
It is.
Sure.
Okay. So, then during the war, then like my wife said, I was in a French school, and there was no anti-Semitism until the little French, Christian French kids went to catechism, and that was they learned
guys know what
that
that
we
is?
killed Jesus, we killed Jesus, and then they didn't talk to us anymore. So there was a, but I didn't really suffer of anti-Semitism like my wife did. Then the war happened, and by the way, in a week from today, 67 years ago, the Americans landed in Casablanca in Morocco, which again has nothing to do with the Casablanca you saw in the movie.
Right.
And after that, just before, I mean, from 1941 on, when the Germans were in Paris and took over France with the Vichy government, there were restrictions against Jews, mostly Moroccans. The French Jews were not that much. Some French Jews, I had a cousin who was thrown out of school, and she was French also.
My brother was thrown out of school because my older brother, somehow, I don't know how my parents succeeded in putting my older brother in a French school since elementary school. That's the oldest, who is a little bit older than I am. So he was about 14 or 15 years old, and he was in a class of baccalaureate, which is a very important exam. It is like the equivalent of 2 years of college here.
Right.
When he was very good student, very, very good student, and one day he said, the principal came to the class, that's my brother who told me this story. He came to this class, and my maiden name is Dahan. So and his first name was Isaac. So they said, Isaac Dahan, take all your belongings, your books, and go home, and you are not to return to class.
This was in Morocco.
Casablanca, during the war, when the French surrendered to Pétain, to Hitler. Hitler.
Right.
So they
So what
there
happened
was a
was
Vichy
there was a government in France that worked alongside the Germans. They were called the Vichy government, and then they came to Casablanca. It was harder for the Jewish community there because they were an arm of the Nazis. They were an arm
Oh
of the
yeah, and a
You
lot
guys
of
get
this.
that?
And,
So all of a sudden,
And at that time, there were signs on in a lot of places in Casablanca with the 15 November, with some
1942.
in 1944 sign with the swastikas, and we were told that the German were going to come in November, and then the American came.
oh,
A week before.
Week before.
A week before.
But sadly enough, the laws, anti-Jewish laws, remained for 8 months after the American came, because for political reason, they continued to deal with the Pétain government.
tell us about those laws. You couldn't vote, right? Jewish people couldn't vote.
Oh,
what
yeah.
else? Tell
What?
us what.
What?
You
They
couldn't
couldn't
vote.
vote.
You couldn't
No.
vote. What
There was
else?
no vote. There was no vote.
There was not a democracy.
No, there was no vote.
No democracy.
No, there was, I mean, the French, when the French was there, they were vote for the mayor of the city, but it was not a French colony, it was a French protectorate.
Right.
So what the French could do was limited. But under, you know, with all the bad things that some French did, there was anti-Semitism, like you had anti-Semitism in America also at the time.
Right. But
But
could
there
you
was-
own a business?
but-
Like, for example, Rudy Masri, who was from Baghdad, his family wasn't allowed to own their own business.
No,
Could
that has nothing
Jews-
to do.
Could the Jews in Morocco own their
No, Morocco
let me
were
talk
very
about-
well off.
Attends.
Right.
No,
Could you show
as a
some
matter of
things to
fact,
show us?
my grandfather,
Yes.
okay, voilà, il est mort. Non. Alors, ah ouais, c'est pas la photo du grand-père. Sorry,
You must have it.
no.
You forgot it?
Regarde s'il est
Like,
dans
like we're curious to
Anyway,
know what your
my
family's doing for
grandfather-
business there.
No, ah voilà. This is my grandfather.
Ooh, very.
Yeah. Okay, my
Very
grandfather,
dapper.
this was much before the French came to
Can we
the
pass it
French.
around?
Morocco became
Pass it
a
around.
French
Pass it
protectorate.
He looks like an aristocrat. He looks very.
Well, he was wealthy. He was wealthy. He was doing very well. He had businesses. And what happened is, in maybe 1870, because he was a Moroccan citizen, and with the Arabs, you know, they were not free to do their business the way they were. They were paying a lot of taxes and everything. So my grandfather decided that he wanted to get another citizenship. He came to America. He lived here for 5 years, became an American citizen, went back to Morocco and continued his business, and he was much better off with the American citizenship. I have
So
some
he had
papers.
two passports,
Eh?
right? He had two different
I
passports.
have no idea how many passports he had, but that's what I can tell
That
you.
was- yeah.
He became an American and went back to Morocco and did very, very well, very well. And I have some few
We would
things.
love to see your
Okay.
things.
By the way, in 1907, when the French conquered, wanted to establish Morocco as a protectorate, of course, what did the Arabs do? Because they were all again mad at the Jews, always the Jews who have to. They vandalized Moroccan houses and apartments. And they did vandalize my grandfather's house. So my grandfather was an American citizen. He was kind of protected in a way. And we found a letter written by my grandfather in English, sent to the American consulate
Yeah.
to give him the list of things that have been
Destroyed.
taken,
Stolen.
and
Wow.
everything,
Can we
and
pass
it
it
is. And also I have a paper here where it says that, my grandfather was an American citizen. That did not make my father an American citizen. But he has paper saying that he is the son of an American citizen.
Great, let's pass it around. You guys should see
Yeah,
that.
okay, so this is the letter.